Hey, that's right, at 9 o'clock. I'm on time. Hooray, everybody. Welcome to tonight's edition of the Tea Party. I'm just gonna do a few things and we'll get this tea party started.
The door. There's nothing left to be found. Feel the walls fall down. There's nothing left to be found.
Tonight is going to be quite the doozy, I think. If you look on the hashtags on Twitter, you'll see why. Thank you, Social Justice Demon. So I just need to post a couple things in a couple places and we'll be off on this show tonight. I think I have we're going to be talking about Breadtube. But I'm also going to talk about Kill All Men. I'm going to talk about the Scum Manifesto and Bill Hicks. Before we get the show started, I do want to say also content warnings. We definitely are going to have some content warnings for tonight's show, and that is suicide and murder. So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm actually going into one of my channels and gonna post a link. If you want to come on the show, just contact me. I see Nick is saying, tell the YouTube friends I say hello. Well, if I can fix this, let me see if I can fix this. I think I can put is it the bot? How about we'll try this. Yes. So, okay. We're in relay mode. So, hopefully, what one person says in Facebook will be seen on YouTube and all the other platforms. So, we'll see how it goes. But thanks, everybody, for coming into the show. I'm still trying to do this last bit because I do want to, if people want to talk about this on the show, just bear with me a second. I'm going to send this information for people in a very, very special spot.
Another one hits the water, another one calls my name. A daughter has lost her father to the killing game. A city burned down to ashes, memories lost in vain. It's only gonna make us stronger as we heal the pain. Can you hear the sirens? Can you see the enemy line? I feel it coming closer. We're braver than a lion. We're steady in our state of mind, keeping our composure.
All right, let's start this out. Let's do a new one tonight. Let's do a new one. Let's bring the music down.
Welcome to the Tea Party with Marty Abernathy, a show starring a binary trans woman born in the body of a non-binary atheist, trade unionist, equality advocate, and anarcho syndicalist that self-identifies as an unhinged fear pimp, outrage brigade commander, free speech police officer, SJW, and a bad faith agent of chaos.
Especially the bad faith agent of chaos. Let's get this show started. All right, so tonight I want to talk about Breadtube. We're going to talk about Kill All Men. All right, the stream's saying that everything works. I am going to steal something from some random geek and say hello, lads, lasses, and NB badasses. I'm stealing that. Tonight, I specifically want to talk about rhetoric and satire and how some people either ignorantly or out of bad faith don't really care to don't care they don't realize that when something is satire. And one of those things I was thinking about was the Scum Manifesto. The Scum Manifesto was written by an American radical feminist and author, Valerie Solanas, that called for eliminating all men. Sociologist Jeanette Castro said of the manifesto, if we examine the text more closely, we see that the analysis of patriarchal reality is a parody. The content itself is unquestionably a parody of Freudian theory of femininity. The word woman is replaced by man. All the cliches of Freudian psychoanalytical theory are here. The biological accident, the incomplete sex, penis envy, which has become pussy envy, and so forth. Here we have a case of absurdity being used as a literary device to expose an absurdity. That is, the absurdity, or the absurd theory that has been used to give scientific, quote, scientific legitimacy to the patriarchy. What about her proposal that men should be quite simply eliminated as a way of clearing the dead weight of misogyny and masculinity? This is an inevitable conclusion of the feminist pamphlet, in the same way that Jonathan Swift's proposal that Irish children, as useless mouths, should be fed to the swine was the logical conclusion of his bitter satirical pamphlet, protesting famine in Ireland. Neither of these two proposals is meant to take anything, it's not meant to be taken seriously, and each belongs to the realm of political fiction or even science fiction written in a desperate effort to arouse public consciousness. And that was a sociologist that said that. And I think the Scum Manifesto, it isn't a document on how to get rid of men and men per se, not to get rid of men, but it's a commentary on men, patriarchy, and toxic masculinity. Got to have some tea at the tea party. We don't need to rid the world of masculinity or men, but working towards getting rid of the toxic bits means that we need to shine a light on it to morally mandate it out of existence. And I wanted to give another example of this. I'm going to switch over in OBS to our I'm going to switch over to our browser screen. Howdy, everyone. All right. This is from a bit that Bill Hicks did on marketing. And again, there's some mention of suicide here, so I just want to I just want to put that content warning before I played this.
By the way, if anyone here is in advertising or marketing, kill yourself. Thank you. Thanks. Just a little thought. I'm just trying to plant seeds. And maybe one day they'll take root. I don't know. You try. You do what you can. Kill yourselves. Seriously, though, if you are, do. No, really. There's no rationalization for what you do, and you are Satan's little helpers, okay? Kill yourself. Seriously. You're the ruiner of all things good. Seriously. No, this is not a joke. He's going to be a joke coming. There's no fucking joke coming. You are Satan's spawn, filling the world with bile and garbage. You are fucked, and you are fucking us. Kill yourself. It's the only way to save your fucking soul. Kill yourself. Plant seeds. I know all the marketing people are going, he's just doing a joke. There's no joke here whatsoever. Suck a tailpipe, fucking hang yourself, borrow a gun from a yank friend. I don't care how you do it. Rid the world of your evil fucking machinations. Okay, whatever. You know what I mean. I know what all the marketing people are thinking right now, too. Oh, you know what Bill's doing? He's going for that anti-marketing dollar. That's a good market. He's very smart. Oh, man, I am not doing that. You fucking evil scumbags. Oh, you know what Bill's doing now? He's going for the righteous indignation dollar. That's a big dollar. A lot of people are feeling that indignation. We've done research. Huge market. He's doing a good thing. God damn it, I'm not doing that, you scumbags. Quit putting a goddamn dollar sign on every fucking thing on this planet. Ooh, the anger dollar. Huge. Huge in times of recession. Giant market. Bill's very bright to do that. God, I'm just caught in a fucking web. Ooh, the trapped dollar. Big dollar. Huge dollar. Good market. Look at our research. We see that many people feel trapped. If we play to them and separate them into the trapped dollar, how do you live like that? I bet you sleep like fucking babies at night, don't you? What'd you do tonight, honey? Oh, we made arsenic childhood food now. Good night. Yeah, we just said, is your baby really too loud? Yeah, the mums will love it. Yeah. Sleep like fucking children, don't you? This is your world, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't think anybody that would watch
Years
that.
ago, he saw something in the sewers.
Sorry about that. I don't think anybody that would watch that would think that Bill Hicks was trying to organize a team to go out and kill people in marketing. I don't think that he was going out. He was going out there to recruit, to tell people, Bill Hicks is trying to kill all marketers. It's fucking absurd. It's a joke. He isn't suggesting that marketers should kill themselves, but that we shouldn't live in a world where they fucking exist. That again, they are morally mandated out of existence. We get rid of them. We don't have them anymore. The world would be a better place if everything wasn't monetized and marketed. He's using dark humor to point this out, but he isn't calling for a public hanging of all marketers. He didn't lead people out on the streets or create a militia to kill all of them. It's a rhetorical device, for fuck's sake. So we get on the topic that a few people have attacked my friend, Some Random Geek. And that is kill all landlords. You can argue that, whether or not it's about really killing all landlords, but I think people have said that repeatedly. It's not. It's not. Some Random Geek has he's not going after them as people, but as their existence within the society, as a thing, not as a person. I mean, here's the thing. When people say all cops are bastards, they aren't talking about all of them as people. Something that was great that my friend Leto pointed out a few weeks ago, when people were arguing about whether or not cops should be at Pride, she said they should come to Pride out of uniform as people, not in uniform as cops. It's not the people, it's the institution. I'll show you why all cops are bastards. We're gonna go to another clip.
A former Buffalo police officer who was fired from the force almost a decade ago has renewed her push for a state pension paid for by the taxpayers. Good evening once again. Carol Horn says that she did nothing wrong, and she now has a 170,000 named petition to prove what she claims.
The same state official who denied her pension request years ago later went to prison for his role in a pay-to-play pension scandal. And as 7 Eyewitness News reporter Josh Bazan tells us, Horn is ready to get back into battle for money she says she deserves.
We're not going anywhere. This Carrie Horn is a hero in our community. She deserves justice.
10 years later, Carrie Horn is still fighting to clear her name. And 10 years later, her friends are still standing by her. Almost 170,000 of them. That's how many people signed this online petition supporting the former Buffalo police officer.
To get like 1,000 signatures, I was like, I got 1,000 signatures. But then 170,000, I was like overwhelmed.
In 2006, Horn responded to a call of an officer in trouble. She says Officer Gregory Kwiatkowski was beating up a handcuffed suspect inside the home. After getting the suspect outside, Horn says Kwiatkowski put him in an illegal chokehold.
Neil Mack was handcuffed. He was handcuffed, and he should not have been being choked. There were enough officers there to control the situation.
Horn says she stopped Kwiatkowski from killing the suspect, but the BPD said she obstructed an arrest and fired her in 2008.
And in my case, stopping police brutality is why I'm fired. That makes no sense at all. I mean, it really does not make sense at all.
And instead of celebrating her as a hero, we have vilified her. What has ultimately happened is that she has lost the ability to take care of her family.
Former state comptroller Alan Hevesy denied her pension application in 2007. But 4 years later, he pleaded guilty to corruption involving the state's pension fund. So now Horn is asking the current comptroller, Thomas DiNapoli, to take a second look, trying to get the compensation she believes she deserves. For 10 days, from November 10th to the 20th, she wants people to sign that online petition and to flood the comptroller's office with letters, phone calls, and messages. She's going to print out those online signatures to deliver to DiNapoli when the campaign is over.
So it's the institution that is corrupt. Cops as an institution, not as people, not when they're going to Pride out of uniform, not when they're people, but the institution needs to go. The institution was founded in slavery. It needs to go. Now, the people that are arguing against this use of rhetoric, they're either ignorant or they're not arguing in good faith, whether it be cops, landlords, or men. And it irritates the living shit out of me. So that's the bit on rhetoric. Ooh, what do we have here? Did we just get a subscriber? Holy shit. If I actually could. Benjamin, thank you for subscribing. But that, I mean, I am so tired of people, especially going after Jonathan for this, some random geek, because it's absolute bullshit. Absolute bullshit. I wanted to bring up some of this. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. Jonathan actually, I'm gonna have to put my browser back up here. Yeah. So Jonathan thanks people from basically saying this, proving this point. And there are people, especially people like Mrs. Snarky, that will be saying, "Oh, how are we to take it when somebody says, 'Hey, we don't wanna,' but if they don't want to give up their property, that's a pretty literal statement." Well, I mean, you have to think about what the cost is. I mean, literally, this, when a motherfucker says this.
Living in fear of is what's happening to this country. And, you know, Tucker, no one reached out to me and said, as a senior citizen, are you willing to take a chance on your survival in exchange for keeping the America that all America loves for your children and grandchildren? And if that's the exchange, I'm all in. And that doesn't make me noble or brave or anything like that. I just think there are lots of grandparents out there in this country, like me, I have 6 grandchildren, that what we all care about and what we love more than anything are those children. And I want to, you know, live smart and see through this, but I don't want the whole country to be sacrificed. And that's what I see. I've talked to hundreds of people, Tucker, and just in the last week, and making calls all the time, and everyone says pretty much the same thing, that we can't lose our whole country. We're having an economic collapse. I'm also a small businessman. I understand it, and I talk with business people all the time, Tucker, and my heart is lifted tonight by what I heard the president say, because we can do more than, one thing at a time. We can do two things. So, my message is that let's get back to work. Let's get back to living. Let's be smart about it. And those of us who are 70 plus, we'll take care of ourselves, but don't sacrifice the country.
Don't sacrifice the country for the people that live in it. So when you get to a point when people in government want to sacrifice old people for economy, for consumerism, at what point is it time to rise up? At what point do you do something to get out on the fucking streets? It pisses me off when you have these people that'll be like, "Oh, you're not a humanist if you're not going to if you're going to protest or you're going to be violent or whatever." At some point, when you're willing to sacrifice old people, is that the time that it's time to fucking stand up, go out on the streets and put your body out there? I don't know, but I would think so. If people in the government are actually calling for sacrificing elderly people so the economy moves. Curiosity during all this bullshit stream actually was brilliant. She said, I do want what is best in the least deadliest ways, and I'm also aware that my wanting that doesn't make it happen. I have a nonviolent protest, and I am going to local socialists over ICE. It's not like I don't want it to work. I just know that sometimes it comes down to making a choice where you don't you don't get to pick the options. And Ms. Snarky comes back and says, yes, it does. I can't believe that it is being ignored because of utopian dreams of conquering the evil capitalism. I think fucking wanting... I just spit on the camera. I am sorry, camera. I think wanting to kill your elderly on the altar of economy, of capitalism, on the altar of consumerism, I think that's probably the time you should probably want to conquer the evil capitalism. And oh my God, this whole thread is so full of straw men. You could fucking burn the whole fucking thread down. It's absurd. It's absurd from the standpoint of Jonathan. It's absurd from, thinking that Jonathan wants to actually kill all landlords. But that somehow we're going to, that as humanists, we're all just going to sit around and sing fucking Kumbaya while the elderly are used as fucking pawns. Not even pawns. They're being sacrificed on the altar of consumerism. Now, I know this sounds fucking radical, but it isn't. I mean, I'm just, to me, I'm mortified. Melanie in the chat said some people like my ex who don't recognize sarcasm or satire. But everything, I mean, that's the important thing. You have to understand context. Bill Hicks was not talking about killing all marketers, even though that's what he said. Even though he protested multiple times that what he was saying. He wasn't saying that. At the end of that, he didn't say, oh, we're going to go out and now we're going to go out and go down to this marketing agency and kill everyone there. He died of cancer. He didn't die of going and shooting up an advertising agency. It's absurd. social justice demon says not committing genocide against the elderly shouldn't be considered radical. But we don't want to be violent. I hate even bringing up comparing well, I'm not going to for right now. I do want to bring up something that let's see if I can find it. I want to talk about some other stuff in a bit, but oh god damn it, where's it at? Let's see if I can. No. Well, if you're quick, you could probably see join my Zoom, but that'll change later. Oh dear. I can't find it. I'm just gonna switch over here. You guys can't see this browser, but I'm going to see if I can find this. The text of what I was looking for, because it's spot on when we're talking about this kind of, well, I don't think I could find it, but I mean, the attitudes of people, even in this country, I'm just shocked. I'm shocked. You have people in America that want to use old people as fodder, but then you have actual old people in this country that are get this. This was on BBC. This woman calls in.
A strapping, great young man. Why are you so worried about this virus? I can't believe it.
Because if I get it, I'll pass it on to other people.
Well, that's too bad, isn't it? Because
What do you mean it's too bad?
I don't care whether we have a lockdown or not. I hope we don't, because regardless of that, if you're going to get it, you'll get it anyway.
That's
There's
absolute
no
nonsense, Chris.
No, it isn't. No,
it is nonsense.
And people have been cooped up indoors all winter, and we've had the most glorious weekend weather for ages.
Where were you at the weekend, Chris?
And you want to stop people getting out?
Where were you at the weekend?
Well, I went shopping on Saturday to Asda, then I went to Stokes Bay and had a walk along the front and sat on the beach for a while because it was so beautiful. Unfortunately, my husband couldn't come with me because he's recovering from a stroke. Yesterday, we went to the cemeteries in Fair Oak and Eastleigh to put flowers on our mother's graves, and we called in to see a friend. So
you called in to see a friend?
Yes, and she didn't mind at all.
How old is your friend?
78.
You are irresponsible.
No, I'm not.
You are irresponsible. Going to see your friend.
You are causing panic.
I'm not causing panic. This is the government advice that you are flouting.
No, the government are stupid. I mean, Boris Johnson is an idiot, so I won't even go down there.
Chris, I sincerely hope that you are wrong. I'm very nice. It's always nice to talk to you. I sincerely hope you are wrong. But if you went around all those places in the shops where we know people are not staying apart, and then you went to see your 78-year-old friend, you are irresponsible.
You are a frightened man, and I can't understand why.
Because I don't want to pass this on. I don't want to get it, and I don't want to pass it on.
Don't be silly. Don't be silly. You'd survive it. What are you worried about?
But the person I pass it to might not. Your 78-year-old friend might not.
I'm 75 as well.
You might not.
So if we get it, we don't actually care. We've had our lives, so stuff it, you know.
So you're happy to die for a day at the beach?
Yeah.
Right, bye, Chris.
So there are literally elderly people that I think would buy this thing for Trump. I do. I mean, but that being said, there are people in Breadtube that are just as tone deaf. This is from Philosophy Tube. My flatmates and I are writing to the landlord to tell them we won't be paying rent in April due to the pandemic. Here's a template that you can use to do the same, and a list of things to bear in mind. Good luck! And a Twitter user called I Feel the Wind, Anthony Della Rosa, said, like, do you know what happens when you write your landlord a letter saying, no, you're not going to pay your rent? You get evicted. That's it. That's the only thing. There's one thing that happens, and that's it. What the fuck do you expect? This is not a fun trick kids can try at home. This is actually dangerous. This is actually fucking dangerous. Like, do you just not live in a world where consequences actually exist? Like, if there was ever a need for any proof that Breadtube is wrapped up in a weird fucking cosplay of politics, I feel like this would fit the bill. 1 minute you're shouting, eat the rich, and fucking raving about how landlords are shitty, vicious, exploitative predators who fucking all have blood on their hands by fucking definition, which is true. Next minute, you turn around and say, which is why you should write a politely worded letter explaining that no, you're not going to be paying your rent, but you would still like to live there. Subscribe to my Patreon. I am a thought leader. I mean, the template. He has a fucking template. He's not just doing it. He is actively encouraging people to do it too. What the fuck? And there's other people that are calling for rent strikes. They're calling for general strikes. And to me, in this moment in time, it's like I said the other night, if you weren't listening, during the civil rights movement, they used nonviolence, but it was a tactic. It was always about the tactic. It wasn't about Lisa Weird in the chat says, what does Philosophy Tube actually think this template would accomplish? That's a good question. That's a very good question. A bunch of people getting fucking kicked out of their living space and being homeless. I mean, does he think that he has that big of a fucking platform that somehow it's going to magically transform the fucking the realty community in this country, or the renting lobby in this country, that suddenly they're going to be down on their knees saying, "Oh, please, please"? Jamie said, I think he thinks it would create a rent strike. Well, I'm sorry. I really do want to see if I can find this. There was a fella on here earlier that had the most brilliant outlook on this. I just wish I could find it. But basically, let's see if I can. No, I don't want to sit here and look through my history while we're doing this, but I just might. Cuz he had a good point, basically saying that, has he ever fucking organized anything? Has he ever organized protest? Has he ever organized a rent strike? Is there any infrastructure? No. This is him going on Twitter. That's not how this works. It's you don't roll out of bed and say, "Oh, I think we're going to do a rent strike today." Jesus Christ. if anything that Sargon of Akkad should have shown people is that just because you have subscribers does not mean that you have a platform that's going to be transformational. You have to do the work. You have to get out and organize on the ground. Jesus. You're going to get people harmed. It blows my fucking mind. Anyways. Well, the thing is, I want to read something. So, this is let's see if I can get this to work. I've made a few improvements. I actually have had this a long time, but I got some new toys. So this is from Anarchotac. It's called Breadtube's Performative Leftism. The online leftist sphere has changed drastically. I was wrong about Breadtube's goals being to radicalize people. There's a thing I missed that I just noticed or didn't elaborate on. Breadtube is not the origin of this phenomenon, only the finished product of it. Chapo Trap House and YouTube as a whole is actually the first one to start this tragedy. We live in a capitalist world, the capitalist world of selling a product to the masses on exploited labor and manipulates the consumer. The thing about capitalism is that it sells everything the light touches. It will even sell the antidote to itself under a thin veil of revolutionary aesthetics. The left and revolutionary politics as a whole is now a thing to sell, to market, to the mainstream. In a post-ironic world with increasingly normalized self-aware media, fourth wall-breaking jokes, meta-awareness, naturally even the status quo will be questioned, resisted, and parodied. But there's a catch. Capitalism uses this to its advantage. Chapo Trap House markets itself as edgy leftism, trying to convince normies. This is a purposeful mimicry of the right doing this to convince its crowd. What's wrong with this, you may ask? More people becoming leftists is a good thing. Well, this is the problem. Well, the problem is that the way it's done isn't with care whatsoever. They give you shallow explanations of anti-capitalism, using edgy jokes, punching down to convince white bro dudes to become leftists instead of challenging white bro dudes. We just give them shallow anti-capitalism and tell them to ignore most of their biases and just blame it on some vague capitalism. These leftists never read theory and actively mock it as snobbish, bourgeoisie, or college liberal thing to do. While the system is the culprit of the world's problems, not understanding why it is and keeping most of the system within yourself unchallenged does nothing. Additionally, should we have only an aesthetic of leftism to sell that leads these people just basing their ideologies around their favorite YouTuber and doing fucking nothing but whine on Twitter and Discord? The Breadtuber they like is also not informed on leftist ideology. They throw around words like praxis and optics without knowing what they mean at all. The words are horribly misused and poorly understood by the Breadtuber and the audience. Most Breadtubers have admitted they have not read any theory whatsoever, yet they go around calling themselves anarchists and radical leftists without any direct action. Critiquing Breadtube leads to visceral reactions and accusations of gatekeeping, dividing the left, woke scolding, and actually, I think this is ContraPoints that they're talking about. I actually do more for the left than you. I do praxis. They go around claiming those who critique are purity test or purity testing to divert criticism, but breadtubers are actually the purity testers so they can justify their aesthetic leftism fandom. Breadtubers have perfected the marketing of selling revolutionary symbols back to the oppressed. That is why capitalism or the capitalists haven't sweated a single drop at the likes of Breadtube. They know that as long as people consume leftism as a commodity, it stimulates action and revolution for the passive viewer. It's a market now. It's not a threat. While not everyone is capable of reading everything or doing direct action, doing absolutely nothing and then claiming you're a better leftist than those who dare critique you is laughable, egotistical trash. And I have realized that Breadtube's goal is not to radicalize people at all. It's a loose collection of individuals who found out that anti-capitalism is a nice aesthetic to sell. While some have genuine good intentions, they are really misguided and miss the point entirely. They also extract money from their audience and turn a profit. The money they earn goes into their videos or into personal things instead of communities. Trans people often raise fundraisers, and nowhere do I see breadtubers ever platforming them to raise money for their HRT or not to be homeless. Instead, they are much more invested in selling to the middle-class white male audience, with some middle-class white trans people thrown in to make a profit. The result is a white majority Breadtube who are mostly middle-class selling to a slightly less middle-class audience. Common responses to criticism like this are, but if we were grifting, we would be doing it for the right. While most breadtubers do not make millions of dollars, selling their counter-narrative to the status quo has always been profitable, especially nowadays. People have a limited understanding of anti-capitalism. Most people have only watched 1 to 4 purple-colored, well-edited Breadtube videos and have walked away feeling like geniuses. In capitalism, there's always a niche market. Niche markets can actually get larger over time and actually be very profitable since not everyone is doing them yet. So instead of competing with 900 different companies in one industry to make a sale, one only has to compete with 1 or 3. This allows them to have a larger market share. So yes, anti-capitalism is very profitable, and this is without going into detail on how much Patreon dollars they make. ContraPoints, for example, has Patreons that has more patrons than fucking Jordan Peterson and has appeared in mainstream press. So fine, yes, they make money, but is that a good thing? Wide appeal, right? They are in the mainstream now. Even if it's just basic leftist ideas, more spotlight is good, right? Any wide exposure of leftist ideas is a good thing until we run into the problem of mostly appealing to white dude bros and recuperation. Only appealing to white dude bros means that many of their biases go unchallenged, making leftism in general reductionist. I also have to mention that this leads to the majority white leftism, wanting everyone to be liberated while only having white dude bros on the board who don't even have their biases in check, on top of not knowing fucking theory, which is disastrous. Some breadtubers try to counter this by saying that class reductionism is wrong while perpetrating white majority pro-colonizer breadtube. We want everyone to be liberated, not just white people. So to recap, we have white dude bros who do not understand leftism or like the aesthetic, but buy into it over and over, do no direct action, sit there and just watch Breadtube videos because their breadtubers at large don't convince anyone to do direct action or teach people even what that means. And this is supposed to be a revolution. Here it is in the midst of 2020, in the midst of a coronavirus, and you think Breadtube and just voting for Bernie Sanders can start a revolution? They say, I'm autistic, disabled, schizophrenic, and even I know that's delusional. So naturally, since they don't know any theory / tactics, etc., all they do is empty redirection, which leads to Nazis infiltrating easily and doxing members of the community. Heck, almost every single breadtuber has been doxed due to very poor security culture and camaraderie among others. Breadtube is a failure. It's something that will eventually dissolve. I predict, just like other fandoms, they will probably have a two-faction fandom war between two Breadtubers. Oh, wait, that's already happened twice now. Well, now that you know Breadtube is a joke, I'm going to again restate that you should, what you should do to actually have an effective online leftist affinity group that lifts others, actually does things, and not a place where fans donate hundreds of dollars to an already decently well-off individual Breadtuber. Breadtube will not help you. Make your own group today. So, I think that is fucking brilliant. They came up with some ideas. One, be on as many websites as possible and have your own website. No more reliance on YouTube. That's a mistake. By the way, that's why we do all the different platforms. I want to be on as many platforms as possible. If we are to use YouTube, it should be an additive, not a main course. This perpetuates the fandom culture that is harmful to the creator and the viewer. The ability to be on many websites as much as possible allows us not to be destroyed online instantly because of YouTube deciding to delete itself or straight up ban leftism content for whatever reason. The fascists have already done this. They are on every single platform imaginable. They have stolen anarchist tactics and weaponized it to use on all of us. Yet we continue to do things ineffectively. The right wing isn't unified. It is decentralized and very effective to the point where they seem centralized due to the belief that centralization equals effectiveness. Having our own site can link to many different podcast channels, artwork, and content. Breadtube technically does have its own website, but barely functions. Yes, I tested it. I'm not sure what they're talking about here, but we can make entertaining videos without making people passive viewers. Instead of cultivating an audience that passively consumes videos and fucks around till the next video is released, you can encourage viewers throughout at the end of the video to check out resources, read up on their own, or upload videos where you make holistic documentaries and audiobooks links like people have done in the comment section of the video itself. 3, earn money. Earning money should be less individualized. Yes, we need money to live, but money should not belong to money should be going to a group instead of a person. This is called a treasury. People can donate. And this is what I've been talking about. This is exactly what I've been talking about. This is, if you believe in anarcho-syndicalism or anarchism in general, you shouldn't be fucking participating in this bullshit if you don't have to. It's one thing to be forced into capitalism. It's another to participate in it when you don't have to. But I'm just looking at the chat. Social Justice Demon says Ollie would never want the responsibility of officially starting a strike, but he puts out a fucking template. But yeah, I mean, if you're talking about anarchism, if you're talking about you want real change, the thing is, there was a system in place before capitalism. Feudalism was in place at one time, and I'm sure people thought that was the only way to do things. There's a better way. There's a better way coming, that we have enough material wealth on this planet to take care of everyone. And this actual crisis has shown, I think, one, that we need to find a way to spread that out, spread those resources out. There shouldn't be billionaires. You know? Where in the fuck is Bill Gates? You know, that guy has billions of dollars that he will never be able to spend if he tried to spend it for the rest of his fucking life. Somebody made a comment online about they should say once you hit $1 billion that everything else goes to the government. And I kind of, you know, I'm for a maximum income. But and I'll try to link to this whole document. It's brilliant. There's a lot of good suggestions. Another one is mutual aid. And that's something else Breadtubers aren't doing. You know, this should be, instead of a strike, we should be focusing on mutual aid. Helping people through this crisis. Helping them to understand what's going on. Some random geek says Lex Luthor / Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are both going into space only because they don't know how else to spend their billions. Exactly. I have some pretty good ideas on how they could do that. They could feed the fucking planet. At some point, and I think this is the tipping point, but you literally have the president of the United States that is a billionaire saying that he wants to sacrifice old people. It's unbelievable. But I know that there are people in his base that'll say, yep, until they start dying. Some random geek in the chat says, I do think mutual aid is important right now. I think it's vital right now. It's the most important thing. By the way, if you want to come on and talk with me about this, I would love that. We can do it via Zoom. For those of you that have my contact information, we can do it. You can call in with the numbers up above. There are 800 numbers in the United States and the UK, because that's where I lived and that's where I live. So you can give me a call. And we can chat more about this. There are a couple more things I do want to talk about. And we can talk about it. You can call in and we can talk about any of this. But what I'm going to mention a few other things. I need to switch back over to my browser here. All right. So this is, I believe it's German. It's the German cover of Valerie Solanas' book or manifesto, and which I think we've all agreed is it's satire, right? It's hyperbole. It's a language that's used to wake people up, shake them up. So why in the fuck, when you see this, is that suddenly a call to violence against TERFs? It's shocking, yes. But it's not a call to violence. It's not saying we're going to go out on the street and hunt TERFs. I get so fucking sick and tired of people not being honest about the rhetoric. It is Now, I will say I don't think this is always helpful. These things are meant to shock, and they're meant to have people think about these things. But I feel like sometimes they're too open to bad faith actors. So yeah, that pisses me off. Also, I wanted to play this. This is this is from Mona Aletta Hallway, and she is fucking brilliant. I want to give this all the sound I need. I'm going to bring it down, because when we have something that's going on that's so it feels like a catastrophe and we're right on the edge, getting ready to go down. There's privilege that we need to think about, and this is brilliant.
And as always, fuck the patriarchy. I got my period yesterday and I had two thoughts. One, when is it gonna stop? Perimenopause is kicking my fucking ass. Two, do I have enough products? In these times of social distancing, self-isolating, quarantine, lockdown, shelter in place, stay at home, non-essential, essential, do I have enough products for my period? It made me remember one of the most heart-shattering stories I have ever read about getting your period during war. No water, no menstrual products, no nothing. This is a moment when it is imperative to remember this is not the first time for so many people to experience curfews, lockdowns, shelter in place, disaster, crises. For those of you experiencing your first curfew, lockdown, disaster, crises, you are privileged. Yes, this is a global pandemic, but if this is your first curfew, lockdown, shelter in place, you are privileged, because so many people have lived through wars, have lived through famine. How do you socially isolate or social distance as a refugee? How do you social distance as a working class poor person in my country of birth, Egypt, who has to take cramped public transport, or any other country on the continent of my birth, Africa, where you have to take cramped public transport to go to work? A work that you cannot take time from, otherwise you and your family will starve. How do you social distance as a person without a home, someone who's homeless? How do you social distance when you're incarcerated? So again, I understand that for many of you, it is difficult to self-isolate, to practice social distancing, to be under quarantine, to be under lockdown. But this is your first disaster. If it's your first disaster, you...
Yeah, I think she said you are privileged. And remember that. It's hard to think about that, but it's true. So, again, if you want to talk about anything, I'm going to hang out for about another 10 minutes. If you would like to talk, hit me up on Discord on the numbers above, or in chat. I can guide you. But I'm going to put some music up for a bit and have a little chat with my friends in the chat, and then... Ooh, and this is a good song for it.
You think by the way you live will get you very far. why you're so fabulous. I've seen you in my dreams. The start of nothing new. Girl, what you tryna do? So just talk to me. All this is here for you. You line up for the bathroom. Can I come in with you? I'm gon' keep it on the low. I won't be leaving too soon. Show you what we could do. Don't say a word, girl, let's go. You're out of line, or you're so nebulous. I wanna feel something. I can't explain why you're so fabulous. I've seen you in my dreams. And when the night is over and all the stars are gone, this bitter kiss all I need. One taste to fall in love. You're out of line, or you're so nebulous. I wanna feel something. I can't explain why you're so fabulous. I've seen you in my dreams. You're out of line, or you're so nebulous. I wanna feel something. I can't explain why you're so fabulous. I've seen you in my dreams.
Oh, something else that I wanted to mention was this post from Anaphylaxis. I love the name, by the way. When she's talking about Breadtube, she said the amount of water Breadtubers are carrying for Buck Angel, an out-and-out bigot, is unreal. I wanted to talk about this. She said the fact that all of these folks fail the test so catastrophically the moment it's one of their own says a lot about their ethics when they actually put to the test and it's all bad. That's the thing for me. When my friends fuck up, and I did have early on some friends fuck up in the trans community, I called them out. I expect more from my friends, not less. She said, anyway, I look forward to the next video a year from now where Ollie explains, actually, I never even Googled Buck. Whoops. The issue we keep returning to with Breadtube is that for many of these folks, their politics are nothing more than a coat of paint and good PR over a need for self-aggrandizement and unwillingness to form any kind of organizing labor that doesn't further that aggrandizement. More and more, I'm convinced that with rare exceptions, the entire enterprise is a way for people to feel good about themselves while doing and accomplishing nothing of actual use to the people who are hurting under capitalism, and I'm deeply uncomfortable with their celebrity. These people are entertainers. There's nothing wrong with being an entertainer. The left needs entertainers. The left needs a whole culture of art and media, but it doesn't need to treat its entertainers like leaders, and it sure doesn't need to treat them like saviors. The cult of celebrity is a cultural sickness, and we don't need to replicate it in detail on the left. We don't need it at all. It turns out having a definition of solidarity that begins and ends with, have I met them for a 6-wine lunch, is actually a pretty big problem for a group of people intending to be the new media left, and we need to keep talking about it even in 2020 still somehow. And I did comment on this, and I said, is it really unreal, or am I just cynical? I mean, most of Breadtube gathered around and supported Coffin when he spouted his "I'm not a detective" rape apology, and were wowed by Coffin's talk of clout chasing, but were silent when he stands for shoe. I mean, I can do this all day. makes leftist content, but hasn't even formed a union. Many unions base dues on income, by the way, so income is not an excuse. Criticize capitalism, but do nothing to dismantle the power imbalance in the communities they create and control. I said, may Kropotkin's ghost haunt them forever. But yeah. So. And somebody else mentioned Hope Sways says the irony of Ali straight up lying in a video about parasocial relationships and how people feel betrayed. And not only that, he was so vague about it to new followers like me who weren't familiar with the specific event he was lying about. Like me, wouldn't have enough info. And what she's talking about is Buck Angel. So, him saying being Buck Angel is being less than informed. And literally, this guy, Buck Angel, is not less than informed. He's a informed bigot. So, yeah. So, anyways. Oh, dear. Jamie J coming up with a rando. Can you believe that there are people who think that Kubrick's best film is anything other than Dr. Strangelove? This is related to nothing. I just think about that fact a lot. I didn't know there was any other movie but that. I love Dr. Strangelove. Bodily fluids. But yes, so yeah. Breadtube is a dumpster fire. So that's all I got for tonight. Like I said, I'm going to hang out until 15 after. If anybody wants to talk, hit me up in the chat or give me a buzz. But I'm going to put the music back up.
You've got to get a hold of yourself.
Hello there.
Hello.
A new challenger has approached. That's right.
Hold on.
Is this the place where we...
Okay. Don't talk to me! Don't talk to me!
All right. All right. I was like, where in the hell did you come from?
I'm at work right now, and well, honestly, I got my work done, so it's like, hey, I can while on the clock, can again call on into the show and to chat a little bit, and notice that you mentioned me as well.
Yeah. So, what did you think about what we talked about tonight?
I catch some of it, but I was also busy trying to find parts as for someone else. So but I think what I love how you pointed out how the liberals said I was against choice all the way back in July. This is when that thread happened. They were like, "But I'm a humanist. I can't advocate for like killing." And that's always where it's just like that seems to be like a drop-off point for like many liberals, where it's just like once you like say that maybe sadly there has to be some like balance to like dismantle capitalism, dismantle the state, or something like that. That's where they lose interest. But I'm a humanist. I can't be against violence, which you mentioned in the prior chat. So it's like, well, what about all the violence that the state inflicts on those people with like landlordism or evicting like people to the streets, or like it's preventing them from like getting food because it's behind a paywall. Yet the foods get thrown away in the back of the dumpster, which they cannot dumpster dust because laws prevent that. Or what about all the violence that our state inflicts on like many people around the world, which is drones?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. I mean, and this isn't anything new. This has been happening since the beginning of our country.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's not something new. And I'm disgusted at it. It really offended me when people were attacking you, because it's either, like I said, it's either a bad faith argument or it's ignorance. But either way, I don't, to be honest with you, I don't think Miss Snarky and crew are ignorant.
Yeah, I think it's in unrelated. I kind of saw them in others' words and said that like they are taking seem to be like a moral stance about like, hey, I can be against all those violence inflicted on the state and be against like the perpetuation of violence through what's really is just guillotine memes. They're against guillotine memes because it's promoting violence, and say that they're against like the state violence and all the children being in the cages and stuff like that as well. Which
I think
yes,
I think Martin Luther King talked about the moderates, that what he thought about the moderates that didn't want to do anything. They didn't want they don't want to put their bodies out there. They don't care about anything but keeping the peace. They don't care about anybody else's struggle. They don't care about. That's why I really putting Mona's piece up there about periods, I thought was apropos, because people don't think of the violence, and they don't think of the terror that's going on around the world that affects people, from periods to, viruses and stuff like that. And you have to take that into account. And when people are just going on this, I mean, there is a part of me, like, I would never fight in a war that I didn't believe in. When it comes to something like Iraq, if they told me that I was going to be drafted, I wouldn't go. I would say, fuck you, put me in jail. That being said, I do think that there comes a point that you do need to Christiosity in that discussion had put it perfectly. She said, at some point you are given choices, and you don't always get to pick those choices, and you have to pick the best one. And sometimes that is violence. I think you can point to World War II as being one of those times.
Yeah, I agree. And that's always the joke that we sometimes make about World War II. It's just like, D-Day just stands for debate day. All those cities were flattened by good argumentations, which is how you deal with fascists, apparently. Which is how you deal with fascists is they punch them at the other streets, so they make them afraid to like spew their bile onto the streets and like make it, but you do not platform them. You just don't give them an audience. It's like, and as you already said before, and we have said many times, denying someone a platform is not denying them the ability to speak, because it's not an inherent right to be given a podium for you to
be
like,
heard.
Yeah, to be heard. Yeah, exactly.
You have a right to speak. You don't have a right to be heard. I mean, that's just
exactly.
And it's really frustrating when you have. I mean, somebody else on Twitter today said they were worried about Breadtube becoming new atheism, kind of. And I was like, that's exactly what it is. And
yeah,
you know, I sit there. I wanted to make a picture of Peter Kropotkin crying, or maybe filing a lawsuit against Breadtube for using his the rights to his book, copying off of the name, because they are the most capitalist driven hierarchical nonsense, and I mean, that's the thing that pisses me off the most about Ollie's rent strike, is that there's no foundation there. He's not getting out on the streets and organizing people. He hasn't done a rent strike before. He doesn't have people backing him up doing those things. So it's absurd.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I was interested in bringing up in last Saturday's episode of Just the Alchemy. The thing is, like, hold on, I'm on.
That's okay.
I gotta use yeah.
Jonathan has to work. All right. Social justice demon tapped out. That's okay. That's all right. And Jamie J is back in the chat, and Jonathan is here now. So Jonathan is actually doing his job right now. But yeah, I'm literally just frustrated beyond belief. The only thing that's really inspired me in the last few months has been TikTok and seeing all the queer youth on it. It's inspiring. But Jesus, Breadtube, so not inspiring. What I'm focusing on myself is local mutual aid and making sure that we get kind of being present while helping and being visually doing it, and having a t-shirt with Peter on it or something along those lines.
I'm back, by the way, and I actually do happen to have a T-shirt with Peter Kropotkin on it, and it's from Non-Compete, American Johnson, who hosted that stream, and Beto has problems with, and understandably so. So yes, because the Breadtube thing, I've already meant to talk about this before, because like part of it is that it was just a fan community, a subreddit that created that, like, they just decided, so many people, this is the Breadtube, this is Breadtuber. Some took it on because some of them are actual anarchists or think that they're anarchists. Oh yeah, I'm willing to be a Breadtuber, to the point where the peak Breadtube things, especially as a self-identification thing, is when Chris Ray Gunn put in his bio on Twitter, #Breadtuber. But he also puts in his bio comedian, so it takes that for what it will. But that's kind of just like shows, it just like became a sexual identification thing. And some people who've been assigned as a Breadtuber said, listen, I just make videos about cartoon movies I watched as a kid, big jokes, for example. I didn't expect to be a part of a movement of a revolution of some kind. And to be fair to Big Joe, even though he stands for Peter Kaufman, so there's that. That's kind of like the weird moment with this word, where it's just like, are you expecting me to be a leftist? I have left-wing politics, but what? What's this revolution thing? What? So yeah, so there's definitely that kind of angle to it, but there's definitely the grifters that like saw that as like, ooh, I get a clout, I get an audience from saying I'm a Breadtuber. What's this Breadtube thing? Oh, so I just had to say this buzzword, this buzzword, this buzzword, this buzzword. There we go. Oh, well, capitalism inside. Yeah, we all agree, right?
Well, honestly, the only anarchist type thing that I can think of is what Thought Slime does, the eyeball zone. That is the closest thing to leftist kind of bringing the community up through his platform.
Right.
That I could say is actually, left anarchist type of movement. There's none of them are organized, and none of them are collectively funding collectively funding kind of quote Breadtube, so that it is more of a collective than single people. They're not unionized. There are plenty of unions, especially for Breadtubers in the UK. They can join a union today based on income, and it's like a couple pounds a month. Something maybe 2 or 3 subscribers could pay for it, just to say, I'm organized with this union and we're doing this. But they don't do that. I mean, it's all performative. And Jamie J in the chat says Breadtube is a fandom, and I agree. I agree.
Yes.
It strictly is a fandom. I do wonder what we do next. Because are you Jonathan, are you a robot?
I'm using my hotspot on my phone to download an app on my tablet, so that can explain that. But if I am a robot, for later on, there's a phone call. But before I answer the phone call, exterminate, and I'll pause and then answer my phone.
I think Jonathan is a Dalek, but yes, I am going. I think we're going to end this show because I got to work tomorrow. But it was lovely having y'all here. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening to the show. Don't forget.
You're listening to the audio podcast version of The Tea Party. You can watch the video broadcast on Facebook, Periscope, Mixer, Twitch, and YouTube. You can find links in the show notes.
So that was a recording for that. And don't forget.
You're listening to The Tea Party, part of the Trans FM radio network.
So yeah. Thanks for coming, everybody. Thank you, Jonathan. I'm going to jet on my Zoom. I think Jonathan already did boogie out. That's all right. Thanks for coming on the show. Thank you, Melanie. Love you too. Miss you. Don't miss Indiana one goddamn bit. But I miss you.
ティックトランペット